Hey everybody, JayC here. Welcome to a Thursday night live stream. So first of all, let me just say, fuck you, Neil. I'm just kidding, man. Who knows? I'm gonna go with 10 words butchered. Seriously though, guys, welcome. Thanks to everybody who joined tonight. I figure we got a lot to talk about. We got GIJoe. We can talk some more about the Haslab. I feel like we got a pretty good big hint to what it was in the Wednesday live stream. Towards the end, I thought we'd talk a little bit about Obi-Wan, but let's keep that to the end in case there are folks who have not yet seen the final episode. And they can depart before we start actually talking about that. But let's see who is in the house. So Captain Morgan is in and out. Hopefully he is going to be more out than in because I think he's got more important things to be doing tonight. Michael's in the house. Neil giving me a hard time with word pronunciation. Is that the first one? Blade Runner is in the house. Everett is in the house. Princeton is in the house. Cause Death Gaming is in the house. Very easy to pass on the GIJoe Haslab. So if it's a his tank, you're out. Is that what you're saying? Because I feel like that's what it's going to be. Is going to be a his tank. I mean, they were all like, oh, look, we've got this his tank on this birthday cake. We love his tanks. Hint, hint, hint. No, Neil, that is not the thumb image is not an official image. That's actually an image that I used, I want to say last year for an April Fool's post on TNI about a Haslab his tank. So that is not official. It would be cool though. That would be a cool one. Just so I'll pull it up so you guys can get a better look at it. Yeah, so this was from a April Fool's joke I did back in 2021. So this tank here is actually, I think it's really cool. This was actually a custom done by Nagamus Prime was the person who actually created this. So I did a little photoshopping with the Cobra Commander, and I used one of the Marvel Legends Sentinel images that Hasbro had done, and kind of made it towards look like GIJoe. So maybe I was predicting the future. I don't know. But if this is what it ended up like, I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit redesigned his tank, like a little more modernized his tank, than just giving us a 6-inch version of the original his tank. Which, frankly, I feel like it was a cool toy for back in the day, but I feel like something like this would actually be kind of cooler to me. I like the little gun here on the side, and I like the four. This kind of reminds me of the direct-to-consumer his tank that they did. Though on that, these were actually missiles, not guns, but and it's a little sleeker in design and everything. So I actually think if it ended up looking like this, I'd be pretty happy with it. But no, this is not an official image. This is not. I used a clickbait thumbnail. I admit it, but I definitely wanted to talk about the Haslab, and like I said, after Wednesday's live stream, on Tuesday in the last live stream, I was like, maybe it's gonna be a triple T, maybe it's gonna be his tank. I thought it was going to be his tank. I mean, it's an army builder. It's iconic. People are going to buy probably more than one. I mean, depending on the price, But so yes, Jerry, Tomac. So we can go and look at that in case you guys have missed it. So Steve over in Europe, those bastards in Europe keep getting everything before we do. So he has already gotten in Tomax here. So let me clear our comment. Then get a better look. But so he already got this bad boy in stock or in his hands because it's already hitting. So right now he told me that Tomax is the only one that's come in from this wave. Zaymont will be in. He's expecting Zaymont to come in next week. So he should have his brother next week. Now, surprisingly, like when this wave with the Crimson Guard twins was announced, Stalker was the third figure in the wave, but apparently because everybody's ordering solid cases now, so he, like, the store he got this in had the solid case of Tomax, and they're gonna get a solid case of Zaymont next week. But like the other figure that he's expecting to come into stock, I think he said was Spirit. So from the previous wave, the store he's getting this figure from is just going to be getting in Spirit, but not Stalker. He didn't know when Stalker was going to be coming into stock. So I don't know what's going on with all this. I'm sure the delays have caused havoc. But the other thing that's kind of, right as the delays and everything started happening, everybody started switching over to ordering solid cases of figures. That's why we talked about the other week, or maybe it was on Tuesday, I forget, but somebody had asked like why like Big Bad Toy Store had only gotten in Speedball and the Iron Man figure from that controller wave, and that's because they ordered all their figures in solid cases, and so far those are the only two figures that have shown up from that particular wave. So that's why those are the only two that they've gotten in stock so far. And I think you're seeing that with a lot of stores where they're only getting like partial waves. GameStop with the X-Men wave, had initially only gotten in the Siren figure and the Wolverine figure, and then I think later they got the Sabretooth. I don't know if they've gotten the other figures in stock yet or not from that wave, but last time I remember they only had 3 figures in the wave. But so 3 figure or solid cases, and the cases are getting broken up and shipping, and only partial waves are arriving, and things like that. Oh, you think I don't think his head looks large. You're talking about Zaymont. Yeah, I don't think it looks too large. Definitely think it looks pretty cool. Now, of course, it's the Crimson Guard soldier that I'm really most excited for. Now, breaking news, and this is kind of a developing story, but I thought I haven't posted about this yet on TNI, but I thought I would go on and share this with you. But it looks like some unpainted prototype parts for a G.I. Joe classified figure have popped up online. So go back. So these legs and waist section, they're multicolored because this is an unpainted prototype, but this appears to be a prototype for a Serpentor figure. So now this, I've been talking to this Zen guy who posted this up on Facebook, and he tells me that this prototype originates from the same place that you may recall before the Viper and the Bat figures were officially announced by Hasbro. We saw some unpainted prototype images of parts for those 2 figures popped up online. So apparently it's the same source that those came from, which obviously turned out to be true, is where this Serpentor turned up from. So this possible, we'll say possible Serpentor prototype figure popped up from. So I feel pretty confident that Serpentor is in the works. There's also, if you go back to the last YouTube live stream that Hasbro did, you'll remember that one of the Hasbro team made a comment that Sergeant Slaughter was soon going to be getting a character in figure form that he could punch. And, you know, he and Serpentor, in the cartoon at least, went at it many times. So I feel like that's what they were hinting to when they made that comment, is that they were going to be doing a Serpentor figure. So, and this prototype seems to kind of confirm that. So I won't say it's 100% confirmed, but I do feel like very strong possibility that we are going to see a Serpentor figure released next year. Now, the big question to me is, will he come with his air chariot, or will it just be Serpentor? Hopefully, you know, I'm hoping that he comes with his air chariot, but that is, to me, really the bigger, not whether we're going to get Serpentor, but whether he'll come with his air chariot or not. It's a publicity stunt if it came from the same place. You meaning that maybe I have somebody who I work with who, whenever these things leak out like that, they always say that. They're always like, oh yeah, those are deliberate leaks. And I honestly don't know, but it's also possible that it's just somebody in one of these factories overseas in like China or such, that you know, wherever Hasbro's having these made right now, you know, is slipping out images or of these prototypes. So it might not be technically a publicity stunt, but you're not the first person to tell me or say something like that. I haven't seen the air chariot parts. I've seen I think I've seen a head sculpt floating around, but hopefully that is true. I mean, I can't believe they wouldn't do an air chariot if they're going to do Serpentor. I mean, you know, it seems like a no-brainer. It's not that big of a vehicle. It's smaller than like the Ram cycle. So it seems like they would definitely do that, but I could see that too. I could see them doing both versions, like a store exclusive version with the air chariot, and then a non-store exclusive as a single release. I could definitely see them doing that as well. Ugh. So yeah, I am super. I mean, I know people are getting frustrated because of the long delays with the GIJoe stuff, and I know it's easier for me to say because, like, at least I have my Storm Shadow, Spirit, and Cobra Officer figures in hand that I got from Robot Kingdom. So, you know, it's a little easier for me. You know, my drought of GIJoe Classified isn't quite as long as some of you guys, so I understand the frustration, but I'm still excited. I mean, they're gonna come, you know, even if it's not until next year, though I do think most of the stuff that we've seen up to this point will end up getting released before the end of the year. But even if it isn't until next year, we will get it. So, and like, I think GIJoe Classified is probably the line I'm, I don't know if I'd say 100% the most excited for, but it's definitely high up there as one of the lines I'm most excited for, as far as looking forward to new releases and stuff. And I keep, you know, going back to the Haslab, the Hiss tank, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, where would I put this thing, and like, how much is it going to cost? I mean, you know, are we going to be talking like another $500 purchase? I mean, that's going to hurt. But I feel like if they are doing the Hiss tank, I'm gonna have to get the Hiss tank. I don't know where I'm gonna put it. I don't I don't, I'm not looking forward to seeing what the price point of it's going to be, or all the complaining that's going to follow when they reveal the price point. But But I feel like that's not going to be one I'm going to be able to pass up, especially if they give us some cool figure add-ons. Though, I mean, obviously, I would think we would get the Hiss tank driver. Could they maybe do a Cobra Commander with hood? Being it would be essentially an online release, probably not under the current environment that Hasbro seems to be operating under, but maybe a hooded Cobra Commander. Not sure what else though you could really add would make sense to add on for a Hiss tank though. I mean, you could add on, I guess, any character that you wanted, but you think 350? You think that seems pretty low for a 6-inch scale vehicle? I I'm gonna put it in that $500 neighborhood, between $400 and $500. That if it is a 6-inch scale Hiss tank, and I'm gonna assume it's going to come with the Hiss tank driver, um, I I'm gonna put the price. My prediction for the price point is going to be between $400 and $500, and I'm gonna put it higher, closer to the $500 mark than the $400 mark. Now, I'm not saying what's reasonable or what I want it to be. I'm just based on previous Haslabs and all that. That's what I'm envisioning the price is going to be. I don't think Hasbro. I've never heard Hasbro officially address the hooded Cobra Commander issue. Super 7, Brian Flynn talked about it briefly, saying that Hasbro wouldn't let him do a hooded Cobra Commander for the Ultimates line. But I don't recall, unless it was like in an interview or something with somebody that I never watched. I don't recall Hasbro ever coming out and officially addressing the whole hooded Cobra Commander thing. I would be pretty surprised if they did, even though, again, this would be an online thing. It's not going to be something that's going to be sold in stores and all that. And but I would still be surprised. But if we were ever going to get a 6-inch hooded Cobra Commander figure, something like this would likely be the way to do it. Okay, so that is a good question. I mean, what was it? Was it like toy? It was in February, right, where he was teasing it again and talking about how something was going to be announced soon. But then, of course, like in one of his videos, when we thought it was the medieval spawn that he was holding up, it was actually that manga spawn that went up on the Target website last week. So, but yeah, I don't know what is keeping him from doing that Kickstarter, other than, I mean, the only thing I can think of is the shipping issues, that he doesn't want to get into doing a Kickstarter when it's so hard to get things shipped from overseas to here on time, and he doesn't want to be in a situation where he says these are going to ship at this time and then they end up being delayed for months and months and months. That's the only thing I can think of, is he's waiting until things truly kind of straighten out with all the shipping and all that stuff, before he ends up launching his next Kickstarter. But it really seemed like back in, I think it was February, that they were getting ready to launch it, and then nothing ever came about it. So I don't know. I agree, Chuck, that 350 is a fair price, and certainly one I would rather pay. But I'm going by things like, I mean, the Star Wars Razor Crest. I mean, that was more than $350, I think, right? That was more in that $500 range, wasn't it, if I remember correctly? So, if the Razor Crest was that much, then I feel like there's no way a Hiss is going to be that much cheaper. Figure Assassin, thank you much, man. I really appreciate it. Always appreciate the kind words. Well, let me go look up the Razor Crest, because remember what the price point was on that. Oh, I take that back. The Razor Crest was only $350, so I guess I misremember. I was thinking it was more expensive. So yep, JC Hash, you're right. 350 was the price. So if the Razor Crest was 350, I still think 400, probably a 6-inch scale his tank. But maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to say. Depends on how much tooling they do. Like, are they going to have like all kinds of removable panels and interior stuff? Is it just going to be the front cockpit to hold one figure and then one figure in the gun turret in the back? Or are they going to make it a more, like some of the other HISS tanks they've done where you've got more extensive room in the back area? So I don't know. But 350 maybe is a little more, being that Razor Crest was only 350, then maybe, a HISS tank would 350. So I'm going to revise my thing. I'm going to say between 350 and 400. 450, yeah, you might be right. Yeah, it's hard. Let's hope for between 350 and 400, but I would not be surprised if it was over 400, maybe closer to that 450 range. Actually, I just looked. The crest was the original price, at least here in the US, was 350. Neil, I think you're full of BS. I don't think you would buy a 6-inch scale USS flag. I mean, could you? That thing would be so expensive, and then where the hell would you put it? I mean, it certainly sounds cool, but I mean, there are probably some crazy people out there that would buy one, but I think most people that say they want a flag, if they actually did it, I don't think would actually get it because it would be so expensive and so big. Speaking of Haslabs, just want to check something because it's been a little while since I've looked at it. But last time I checked that Haslab lightsaber campaign wasn't doing too well. So yeah, that lightsaber campaign has only gotten 1,114 backers out of the 5,000 needed, with just a little over 18 days to go. So I think that I'm thinking this campaign's not going to be a successful one, which means Star Wars is going to have its second failed campaign if that ends up being the case. I don't know if there's like, like I don't know what the backlash is internally with Hasbro, like the upper ups, like does somebody get fired if these campaigns don't succeed? Though it didn't seem like anyone really got fired when the Rancor got failed, so I don't know. I agree, Neil, but frankly, the only Star Wars HasLab that I will settle for is a Death Star playset. I just anything else, and I don't think I'd be interested. Do I think a diorama Sod would work for Haslab. I I don't know. Um, Michael, I don't know. Probably. I feel like that's their main line for kids, so I feel like that they'll probably do a lot of those characters, but hard to say with Mattel. Oh, for the Death Star, realistically, it would need to be like a vintage collection, 3 3/4 or whatever. I would not expect a 6-inch scale Death Star. That's on par with like the flag. It sounds cool, but it just would be too big and too much space. But a vintage collection, HasLab Death Star of some type, that's what I want to see for the next Star Wars HasLab. The sci-fi. I saw that Tommy Enterprise. I saw on the Tommy Facebook page they did like a demonstration video. But what is that thing called? That thing's not cheap. That thing's expensive as hell. I will tell you, if they had done the Enterprise, the movie Enterprise, the refit Enterprise from the movies, as opposed to the original series Enterprise, I might have been tempted to get that Tommy Enterprise that you're talking about, because it was the original series Enterprise and because of the price and everything. I'll have to pass on that. But had the refit Enterprise from the movies is my favorite. So if they did that one, then I would be much more tempted. Sean, I feel like that lightsaber HasLab campaign was like like I feel like that was originally intended to go to retail, and then for some reason the retailers decided they didn't want to carry it, and so they were like, "Shit, we got to get this out some way. Let's try HasLab. Let's see if we can get it sold through HasLab." And so they went that route. But I agree, it was not a well thought out HasLab in my opinion. Chuck. So I got a guy who's going to be coming out maybe tomorrow. Who runs a local vintage toy store, and he's going to take a look at them and make me an offer. And if it's enough, I'm probably just going to sell that stuff to him. Trying to sell that stuff individually, I just don't have the time for. I'd probably get more money that way, but I just, like, having to mail all that stuff out to people and everything. It's just I don't have the time for it. So, and as I've gone through, like as I was going through all that stuff, for those of you not familiar, I've been, I pulled out like 20 years worth of toy bins that I've collected over the years, of stuff, Star Wars, whether it's Star Wars, Transformers, GI Joe, things that I don't have the room to display. So they've just been sitting in these bins over in a storage facility that I have. So I brought them all out to kind of go through everything to see what I got. So, and this all started because I was looking for the San Diego Comic-Con Marvel Legends Savage Land set that I know that I got, that I had never opened, which I had discovered was actually going for quite a lot of money on the secondary market, and not so much just to sell, but just because I was going to go look at it, because I knew I'd gotten it and I knew I'd never opened it, and it was disappear. It was not where I thought it was. So then I started going through these bins and stuff, thinking, it somehow I'd gotten over in these bins. And I still have not found that set. So I am at a loss to where that thing went. But as I was going through the bins and everything, I came to the conclusion that, I'm never going to have the space to display all that stuff. It's just going to sit over in those bins, collecting dust, getting broken, parts getting lost. The longer they sit in those bins, the more likely something's going to get broke, or that little pieces are going to get misplaced, or parts, what have you. And so it just decided that it was time to sell a lot of that stuff off. Not so much because like I desperately need the money or anything, but just because they're not doing me any good sitting over in storage. And so I figure, let somebody else, give an opportunity to someone else to enjoy them if they want. So, and if you follow me on Facebook and a little bit on Instagram, and I've done some YouTube videos where I've shown a lot of the stuff in those bins. That's what we're talking about. But so I got a guy who runs a pretty nice vintage toys store called Eternia Dreams. Actually one of the biggest, maybe the biggest in this area at least. But so he's going to come out and take a look. I don't know what he's going to offer yet, so I'm not 100% going to sell to him, but if he gives me a good enough offer, then I'm probably going to sell most of that stuff. Now, I still, obviously I'm like the things you see in here. I'm not selling any of this stuff. I've got stuff up in my main office. I've got stuff that has a lot of special meaning to me that I'm not selling. So I'm not like selling every single collectible that I own. I'm just selling the stuff that essentially has just been sitting in these bins for years and years that I'm likely never going to pull out and do much with. Yeah, it does. Battle damage Darth Vader. I don't want to get into the Obi-Wan spoilers just yet. We'll give it. I haven't seen anyone say that they have not yet watched the final episode of Obi-Wan yet. So what's up, bro? Yeah, like I said, and there's a part of me, and so what I lost my train of thought originally. So what I was going to say is, as I've been going through this stuff, it's definitely brought back a lot of memories, fond memories and stuff. So, I definitely not going to sit here and say it like, I know some people when they like sell off their collections, like they start saying like, oh man, I feel like I wasted all this money and everything. And I don't feel that way at all. I mean, I'm not going to sell. I don't think the stuff that's in my garage, I'm going to sell, like, and be able to retire, but most of it's open or it's not in 100% pristine condition. There are some stuff that has missing parts or parts that I haven't actually matched up. And can I just tell you that like I remember a lot of the accessories that go, like I'll see an accessory and I go, oh, I remember that goes to that and that goes to that. But there are a lot of accessories where I'm like looking at and I'm like, what the hell did this go to? I don't even remember what this goes to. And so like trying to match up all the little accessories with an item is a lot harder than you might think when you're talking about 20 years worth of stuff. So but yeah, and there's a part of me that feels like the moment I sell it, I'm going to start regretting that I sold it. I'm going to be like or I'm going to go one day, I'm going to go, oh, I had that, oh, and then like, oh, but I sold it, but I feel like while that's possible, again, it's not likely. Like I'm never gonna. I'm gonna tell you almost 99.9%. I am not going to ever move into someplace bigger than where I live now. And I have 2 rooms set up to display stuff, but I just don't have room to display all that other stuff, and I don't think I'm ever going to. So, what's up, Power Turtle Busters? You fell asleep watching Obi-Wan? Come on, man. The last episode? Sean, I've been looking at my collection this last year trying to decide if I want to focus on just a few lines and downsize the rest. Just can't pull the trigger. Yeah, it's hard, man. I mean, you always have that feeling in the back of your head like, oh, am I going to need that? And I am a huge pack rat. The only thing that keeps me from not having like, seeing like just like piles and piles of crap behind me is I'm also a neat freak to OCD levels sometimes. So I like to have things organized and such. So that's why all the stuff ended up in storage, because that's where all the piles of stuff have been. Like, but the fact is you always have in the back of your head, I hate throwing things out or getting rid of something because I'm always like in the back of my head, oh, I'm going to need that one day. Oh, well, I might need that for like a review or something, or, you know, or it's going to be worth a lot. I don't really collect for value, but there's always sometimes just in the back of the head, oh, this is going to be that one item that's one day is going to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And I'm going to have sold it for like $2. I mean, there's always those thoughts in the back of your head, and it's like, it's very hard. It's going to be very hard to get rid of that stuff, but I feel like I just got to do it. And I do feel like if there is something that I ended up selling and one day decide like I want to have back, I mean, I I'll just go out and buy it again. I'll probably have to pay, you know, more than I did originally, but if there is that one item that I end up I sell and then, you know, really regret one day, then, you know, I'll just likely go back and buy it again. But if I had to own one brand, that's a tough one for me because I collect so many different things. Ugh. It probably would either come down to GI Joe or Marvel Legends, but like Transformers, I mean, my masterpiece Transformers, giving those up would be super tough. Uh, I would used to say Star Wars, but I'm finding it's much more easier to get, you know, the Star Wars stuff. Like, I mean, Star Wars was the very first action figure line as a kid I got, you know, that I remember playing with as a kid. So it definitely I have fond memories for Star Wars, but I don't know what it is, but I just, my connection to Star Wars toys is not as strong as it once was. Hulk Smash used to label back, yeah, and I'm just not the. You know, I said I was organized, but I'm not that organized. Like I throw accessories into drawers, and I even sometimes will group them. Like I'll have, okay, this is my Marvel accessories, and this is my GI Joe accessories, but trying to keep them individualized to a specific product. I mean, you would have to have so many baggies, it would be ridiculous. I mean, theoretically, you know, going back and looking in hindsight, you know, when I put something in storage, I should have put all the loose pieces in bag and then taped like the bag to that particular item and then put it in a bin or something like that. Yes, that would have definitely. And if you're just starting out with a collection, that's what I would recommend if you ever start to put stuff into bins and such. But, you know, going back 20 years ago, I just, you know, as I was no longer displaying things, I would just put them in a bin, and then the bin would go in the back room, and then eventually as the back room got filled, it would go, you know, and it ended up in storage and stuff. And so now I'm just with all these bins filled with stuff and then accessories that have just gotten loose. And as I was going through the stuff now, I was definitely trying to, as best as I could, trying to, okay, putting all the Marvel accessories in the bin with the Marvel stuff, and all the GI Joe accessories with the bin with the bins with the GI Joe stuff. And I split, like, I had a lot of bins mixed up, so as I was going through this stuff, I put like all the GI Joe stuff in their own bins and all the Star Wars stuff in their own bins, and so on and so forth. So I got it a little bit organized, but it's still, you know, like if somebody's going to truly try and match up all the accessories and stuff with all the different vehicles and things like that, they're going to have to, you know, they're going to have to spend some time to do that. Gus, does anyone play with me with my toys? No, I mean, other than posing them, I these days I don't really play much with the toys. You know, definitely going back, you know, well outside of being a young kid, I would sometimes play around with them and stuff, and definitely, you know, pose them in certain, you know, when I had more shelf space, I would like do out like, scenes, trying to recreate scenes from movies and stuff. Even as a kid, I always like to try and recreate the movies. Like I would, like when I played with Star Wars as a kid, I would try and reenact the movies as I remember them. Now, of course, keeping in mind, we didn't have, even back then, we didn't even have like VHS tapes. So, I only got to see the movie once or twice in the theater, and then that was it. So, going by memory though, but I would always try and like reenact the movies and stuff. Yeah, I that's kind of where I am. Marvel and GI Joe are probably my two favorite lines overall, with Transformers and Star Wars being, close seconds. Though, like I said, Star Wars these days is not. I don't know what it is about Star Wars. I just kind of lost. It, I just have not found Star Wars offerings to be that exciting these days. Chuck wants to know if anyone's Mr. Sinister has come from Shop Disney yet. I assume you mean the X-Men animated series one. I didn't order any of those, so, and I'm still bitter at Shop Disney for canceling my X-Force 3-pack, so. All right, speaking of Marvel Legends, I wanted to bring up another topic that I thought was kind of interesting. So, one of my moderators on the Marvelous News message board started this topic about Build-A-Figure versus deluxe figures, and whether Hasbro should get rid of the Build-A-Figure altogether and just release bigger characters as deluxe figures. And an interesting point he made was that like his feeling was that Hasbro was using the Build-A-Figure to release more obscure, larger characters that probably wouldn't sell that well as a standalone deluxe figure. And I think there's probably some merit to that. But I'm curious if you guys think Hasbro should get rid of the Build-A-Figure concept altogether, which of course, was primarily started by Toy Biz. I mean, it wasn't Toy Biz wasn't the very first one to offer parts that could build something bigger, but they really made the Build-A-Figure the kind of the household name that we know of it today. So, should they get rid of that? Something that's been a part of the line since day one, or and just do the deluxe figures, or continue to do both. I'm on the fence, but I kind of feel like doing both is the better route. Blade Runner, when I was 7, when Return of the Jedi was in theaters, and I was pissed at my parents for weeks when they came back and told me they've seen it. It wasn't until the late 80s. Your parents went to see Return of the Jedi without you? That's harsh. My parents let me skip school because the first day it opened in theaters was like a weekday, and I remember we didn't have to go to school that day, and my parents took us to the theater in the middle of the day to go see Return of the Jedi. Jerry says they won't, since the Build-A-Figure is their seller for the entire wave. Well, that is the point of the Build-A-Figure. I mean, that's what it was created for, is to entice you to buy all the figures in the wave so that you can get that more sought after Build-A-Figure. However, as they're doing these more obscure Build-A-Figures characters, those don't have as much of a wide range of appeal. So is that really still a practical um, benefit of doing the Build-A-Figure. Jonathan, so yeah, I did want to talk a little bit about that. So the Loot Crate turtle sets are supposedly, at least some of them, are starting to ship. I got my shipping notification yesterday. Looks like for crate number 3. That was confusing because in the email that I got, it told me all 4 figures and the bonus figure were in the shipment. But then when I actually clicked on the link, it said just crate number 3, which is the mutated Shredder from the Mirage comics, which actually is probably I'm going to say the second least one I was interested in, because the Danny Pennington, which I got last year, I got my first crate last year, but that I don't collect the movie figures, so that one had no interest for me. But probably this mutated Shredder is the one I'm next least interested in. And it's all the others that I really wanted from those crates, but hopefully they will all start shipping very soon. And at least there is some movement. I mean, it's been months and months since there was no movement on that, but Double D. Yeah, but you gotta, I understand that point of view about spoilers, but, you gotta realize that some people don't want it ruined. They want to be surprised. They want to know, they don't want to know. In my job, when I cover a lot of, movie news for Marvel and things like that. So it is very hard for me to stay completely away from spoilers. But I don't like it when, like, the main, small things, I do, when somebody gets upset that something is shown that was in the trailer, that's kind of pushing it a little too far. But, having the main plot point of the movie or what have you spoiled, I feel like does take away a little bit from the movie. So I try and respect give people time to see something. I mean, the episode only premiered yesterday, so it's not like there's been a lot of time. But it is about 7:20, so I'm going to say, yeah, Dark Turtle and Scrag. The shark guy, from the arcade, that one's a pretty cool one too. But Dark Turtle and Dark Turtle is probably the one I'm looking forward to the most, and then Scrag is a pretty cool one as well. Well, I'm waiting on crate number 2 as well. I've got crate number 1, and then according to the email, crate number 3 is coming, but I have not gotten yet an email for crate number 2. So I don't think anybody's gotten in hand any of the crates but crate number 1. So hopefully here in the next week that will have changed. But right now, I think the only crate that anyone's gotten is crate number 1. All right, so yeah, it's getting about 7:20. So if you have not seen the final episode of Obi-Wan, the Disney Plus Obi-Wan series, I'm going to say you probably want to go on and exit the stream, because we're going to start talking about it. And if you haven't seen it yet, I don't want to ruin it for you. But since we're getting towards the end here, I definitely wanted to share my thoughts about the final episode. So I'll give you a minute to exit if you need to. All right, Jerry, man, take it easy. Thanks for stopping by. And I'm sure we'll talk more about Obi-Wan next week, maybe. So it's pretty good. I will tell you that I had some things to nitpick a little bit, but overall, I was actually pretty happy with the episode. All right, so Obi-Wan final episode. I liked it. The only, as far as I will say, the whole thing with the Star Destroyer somehow not destroying the ship that Obi-Wan and the rebels were on, it kind of reminded me of like the sequels where like the ship couldn't catch up to the rebel, to the rebel ships, and so the whole movie was just the firing on the ship and being just out of range. So it was kind of like that, but other than that, I thought the final episode of Obi-Wan was pretty good. Um, the scene, the final battle scene between Vader and Obi-Wan, I mean, that was great. And I feel like, at the beginning of the series, I was kind of like when they the two faced off in like that middle episode, I was like, this kind of contradicts what, Vader told Obi-Wan in episode 4 about, last time we met, I was the master, or you were the master, and Obi-Wan's like only a master of evil. So I felt like that had been kind of contradicted as the series had started. But now you kind of see, well, obviously Obi-Wan was still the master because he basically handed Vader's, ass to him. And so you can now kind of maybe still, Vader not feeling like he was the master because he got his ass kicked. So I feel like that kind of redeemed that a bit. I also thought it was really interesting when Anakin was like, you didn't kill Anakin, I killed Anakin. And so, going back to, in Star Wars A New Hope, when Obi-Wan tells Luke that Darth Vader killed his father, and then, Return of the Jedi, when Luke was like, you lied, and it's like, only from a certain point of view. And so I feel like, Anakin saying that to Obi-Wan really kind of made that, Obi-Wan telling Luke lying, not really truly lying to him, because in a way, Vader did kill Anakin. I felt was kind of it was a nice way of handling that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean the episode began, so somehow the Inquisitor managed to get all the way to Tatooine, but yet Obi-Wan and their escape vessel was still on the run from the Star Destroyer. So that didn't quite match up. And being stuck by a lightsaber didn't seem to really phase the third sister too much, which also was kind of weird. But um, and I understand the ship didn't, the hyperdrive wasn't working, but if the hyperdrive wasn't working, the Star Destroyer should have been on top of that ship and locked them into a tractor beam in like minutes. So that just was kind of, I understand they wanted to give Obi-Wan time to escape in the escape pod and get down to the planet so they could have the face off between just Vader and Obi-Wan. But that definitely was one of those Star Wars moments where it was like, really? It's kind of like in the one episode of Obi-Wan when Obi-Wan had Leia under his jacket and nobody noticed. Like that was a disguise that somehow people weren't going to notice. So there have been some things throughout the series that you could definitely nitpick, but I still overall felt like, I mean, just that ending scene between Vader and Obi-Wan really kind of just made up for any kind of nitpicking thing you come up with on the series, in my opinion. And I loved how like when he got his helmet cracked open, which just like he did when he faced off against Ahsoka in the Rebels series. But I liked how they kind of went back and forth when Anakin started talking, and sometimes it was Hayden Christensen's voice, and then sometimes it was the James Earl Jones voice of Vader. Though I don't think it was actually James Earl Jones. I think were computer simulating that. But I liked how they went back and forth between the two voices because the helmet had been cracked open and everything. One of one of the things I take away from Star Wars is both the Sith and the Jedi are evil. I'm not sure how you come to that conclusion. I will say the Jedi can be, they can be flawed. They can make mistakes, but I wouldn't call them evil. One thing about Vader, though, is like, you really, especially after watching him in this series, and I don't say this is a bad thing, but you really see Vader as, you know, he's this really just angry boy that is just desperately trying to get, prove that he's better than everybody else, which is what has allowed him to be so easily manipulated by like Palpatine and stuff. But in the original trilogy, Vader was this very one-dimensional character where he was definitely menacing. You would just assume choke you to death and talk to you. But as the layers have been pulled back, as the armor's been pulled back, we see Anakin for really just being this boy who essentially has just never found the acceptance, and kind of like dealing with abandonment issues and stuff, but just this angry boy. And I thought the scene with Vader and Palpatine at the end was kind of funny, where like Vader's like, I will stop at nothing to find him. And then Palpatine's like, perhaps your thoughts are not clear on this matter. And then Vader's like, he means nothing to me. Let's move on. I just thought that was kind of funny. Thoughts on the Reva character? I don't know. I didn't really... The whole thing with her going after Luke, I mean, obviously she was seeking some type of redemption. She wasn't truly evil. She was trying to get revenge, which isn't very Jedi-like, but obviously she was a youngling when Anakin came in and killed everybody. So... But I feel like if they do another season of Obi-Wan, we're going to see more of her. I definitely feel like they've left it open for a second season. Whether they do it or not, I don't know. But I definitely feel like they've left it open so that they can do a second series. Like, what's up with Qui-Gon? Where are he and Qui-Gon going to go? I mean, obviously that seemed to me like a big opening for a second season. So I don't know, but as far as in this particular season, I did not feel like the third sister was added. I didn't hate her, but I don't think she really added a whole lot to the series overall. See, and again, I agree with you about Reva, but I also feel like Reva's still like an open question because I feel like we have not seen the last of her. So I'll wait, and if this is truly, if we never see that character again, then I will 100% say like, yeah, I saw no real point to her, and I could have done without her. But like I said, I feel like we will see that character again somewhere. So I don't know. Yeah, it was. I mean, and it was like it was very subtle. Your thoughts on this seem quite confused, and then like maybe you should just let it go, my friend. It's basically what he was saying, and then Vader was like, he means nothing to me. And of course, from Palpatine's standpoint, he's probably afraid that if he interacts with his former master, he might return, he might have a change of heart and revert back to the light side, which of course he does eventually, but not because of Obi-Wan, but because of the love of his son. Well, I never got the impression that Luke felt like I mean, Luke knew of Obi-Wan, um, referring to him as old Ben, who lived out on the Dune Sea. But but I do feel like this series explained why Leia knew who Obi-Wan was. Um, you know, when she obviously was sending a message for his help and such. So it definitely gave more light to how she knew who Obi-Wan was and their connection. As far as Luke goes, I mean, obviously we now know where Luke got the ship that he's seen playing with in A New Hope. You know, he's got that ship when he's giving C-3PO his bath. So we know where that came from. But, yeah, I never felt like Luke didn't know who Obi-Wan was. He just didn't really know. He didn't know, obviously, he was a Jedi or anything. I think he probably just thought Obi-Wan was a crazy old man that lived out, lived out in a hut by himself. Omega, you didn't like the Leia escort mission in the Obi-Wan? What do you mean the escort mission? I like the Leia character. I thought that little girl did a great job of Leia. So yeah, that kid really had no resemblance to Mark Hamill. That's for sure. Though I feel like probably they were trying to make him look more like Anakin from Episode One. I feel like that's kind of the look they were going for. I don't know if they accomplished that, but that's what I feel like they were trying to make him look more like Anakin did in Episode One than say like a young version of Mark Hamill. I don't agree with that totally. I mean, like The Mandalorian, I definitely have really loved, and while the Obi-Wan series wasn't perfect, I definitely felt like it was one of the better, definitely better than the Book of Boba Fett. The Book of Boba Fett was definitely so far my least favorite Star Wars series. So I feel like there was some things they could have done better in the Obi-Wan series. They could have, found a better way to have Obi-Wan leave the ship so that Vader could follow him instead of like 20 minutes of somehow the Star Destroyer not being able to catch up to the ship, or come up with a better disguise than sticking Leia under his jacket. Things like that. Possibly. Well, yeah. I mean, almost definitely. I would say not that I ever expect there to be a connection between the two, but I don't think there were that many younglings in the Jedi Temple, and they obviously were both younglings at the same time. So yes, I would imagine that she knew of Grogu at least, whether she was close personal friends with him or something. That I would tend to doubt. Chuck, if I could make a Star Wars movie, what would I do? What movie would I make? That's hard to say. I guess like the movie I wanted from the sequels was a movie that gave us a better ending for the original trilogy characters. You know, and part of the problem was obviously that they waited so long, and the actors had grown so old that became less feasible with the sequels. But the Star Wars movie that I wanted and never got, and it's kind of why I like a lot of the things that we're seeing, like with Obi-Wan and the Mandalorian. I mean, the scenes with Luke Skywalker and the Mandalorian, I've really enjoyed, because that's probably as close as we're going to get to having a continuation of Return of the Jedi, to see, the characters like Han Solo, Luke, and Leia, you know, continue on. So that's the movie I would have liked to have made if I was a movie maker, or definitely the movie I would have liked to have seen, done years ago like maybe shortly after the prequels, I wish they had gone on and done the sequels and given us a movie that involved the original characters much more. I don't mind bringing in new characters, like a new generation of characters, like a Rey and Finn and those guys. But I would have liked to have a movie that really kind of gave us more of a story about the original characters. That would have been nice, but like from like Han Solo has always been my favorite Star Wars character, so I would have liked to have seen, you know, Han and Luke like get married and have their kid and try and start this new republic together. I would have liked to have seen like essentially a movie that picked up almost after day one of Return of the Jedi. That's what I would have liked to have seen. And again, Han Solo being my favorite character, while I like Luke and definitely interested to see what he would have ended up doing with like trying to restart the Jedi Council and everything. Han is really the character that I always like the best. No, I haven't seen that. Han and Luke get married. I meant Leia. If I said Luke, I meant Leia. I meant Han and Leia get married. I would have liked more details about Finn. Finn seemed to have I mean, where did he come from? How did the First Order, you know, get him? I would have liked to have seen how we got the First Order. I mean, obviously Palpatine was manipulating things from behind the scenes, but you know, how did we go from, the Empire to the New Republic to then the First Order? And I know there was that one cartoon series that was really bad, that kind of started to give us a little bit of a glimpse of that, but I would have liked to have seen that more in the movie. I don't think we're getting a Riva series. I have not heard that rumor, but I don't think we're getting a Riva series. I could see us getting a Vader series. Um, I feel like a Vader series definitely could be possible. In fact, instead of doing like an Obi-Wan season two, they should do a Vader series that kind of picks up where Obi-Wan left off and still have maybe, Obi-Wan in it and stuff, but be more based on Vader than Obi-Wan. I think the Andor series will be on par with Rogue One. I mean, the Andor series I think is going to give us a lot more details on how the Rebel Alliance got started with Mon Mothma. I feel like Mon Mothma is probably going to be as important of a character in that series than Andor himself. So I feel like that's what the goal of the Andor series is going to be, is to kind of really show us how the Rebel Alliance gets going. What's up, Paul? We're talking Obi-Wan spoilers, so if you haven't seen the final episode, you probably want to go on and exit. Do I think season 3 or season 4 of Mandalorian will be the final season? I don't know. I'll tell you after I've seen at least season 3. And it's probably more of a question of whether it should be the last season or not. But I think if there's more story to tell, then my guess is they'll continue to do more seasons. But I'm definitely interested in, season 3. I'm looking forward to that, though it sucks we got to wait until next year. I feel like the Ahsoka series actually has real potential to be pretty good as well. So I'm actually looking pretty forward to the Ahsoka series. A Ned B series. 3M, you didn't like the final season or the second season? I thought the final episode of season 2, I mean, that's some of the best Star Wars to date. I love that episode where Luke comes and everything. I did I will admit that it was a little disappointing after all of that. Grogu basically is already back with the Mandalorian. I feel like they brought the Grogu back too quick. I feel like he should have stayed with Luke longer. But that final episode of season 2 of the Mandalorian, I think, is some great Star Wars. Is the Book of Boba Fett really that bad? I No, it's not like, oh my god, this is the worst thing I've ever seen bad. But I felt like it was pretty. I didn't find it very interesting overall. Um, and I just don't really like Boba Fett trying to be, like trying to essentially take Jabba's place. I prefer Boba Fett to be like a bounty hunter, the most feared bounty hunter in the galaxy. That's the Boba Fett I know. So I understand they're trying to make Boba Fett more of a good guy and things like that, but I would much rather see Boba Fett get back to his roots to being a bounty hunter and essentially working for himself and having adventures like that than this whole thing of trying to essentially take Jabba's place and then do it in a way that's like being a good guy. And I feel like that's kind of where they were trying to take it, but I just don't think that really fits for Boba Fett. I don't know. That's just me, but it's possible that he didn't get more TV time just because it may be like really expensive for them to do that character. I don't know. A Palpatine origin story with was it Darth Plagueis or something like that? Yeah, but the thing is, crime bosses usually just sit around having other people do their bidding, and I don't think that's a very interesting idea for Boba Fett. That would be pretty cool. But then you'd have to get a new actor, at least for Under the Armor. I don't think it's going to be a Thunder Machine. I think it's going to be a His tank. Definitely, almost definitely a tank, and almost definitely a His tank. All right, well, I think we're going to call it a night, but as always, thanks for joining in and chatting with me. It's always appreciated. Probably should be back tomorrow with a news video. But again, I want to thank everybody who came in tonight. And as always, guys, stay safe. Until next time, I'll catch you later. Hey, thanks for watching today's video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification to alerted every time I upload a new video. And be sure to head over to the Toy News International and Marvelous News message boards communities. It's a great place to talk toys and win cool contests like $100 store credits to Big Bad Toy Store. And remember, action figures are great.